Here's one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen. Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin The Bizkit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
Ladies and gentlemen, lads and ladies, this is going to be episode 16 of Slangin The Bizkit podcast. My name is Travis Ridgen. I'm the number, not 33, the 31 for the Mississippi Sea Wolves, joined on the left of my Zoom screen. And on this podcast, his name is Dave Wheeler. He is 41 years young. He is slicing and dicing up in the city of Winnipeg. Top morning show for 20 plus years. Dave, how's the city of Winnipeg looking out there? It's warm in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Well, first off, I'm older than that, but thank you. I appreciate you de-aging me a little bit like Indiana Jones in the new movie. I have a surprise for you, actually. I brought someone else in on the podcast today that I know we've talked a lot about, and wanted you to introduce you to them. You ready?
Yep.
Come here, Panda. Come here, Panda. Come here. Come give me a hug. Right here. Give me a hug. Yeah.
That's a big old doggy.
That's my puppy. That's my baby girl. And she's co-hosting the podcast today. Hi, Panda.
If you're listening on the Apple or Spotify version, that is the dog that pissed on Dave.
That's the one.
That's the dog that pissed on Dave in the Mexican airport.
That's her. All of her glory.
The look on her face is, yes, I did. Maybe I did.
Yeah. I can't believe you told everyone in the podcast that I did that. All right.
It's like, Dad, you're embarrassing me.
Anyway, she's coming along for the ride today.
I was also going to say, I think that's the first time I've actually aged you in the podcast. I've always talked about you being like late 20s, ripped and chiseled. First time I've acknowledged that you were 40 plus.
I am a very proud 44-year-old, sir. I have earned every single one of these gray hairs in my beard. I am happy and pleased that I am 44.
I was actually thinking about dyeing my beard the other day. I saw a TikTok, and just hear me out for a second before you judge. I saw this TikTok that was talking about how, like, if you can darken your beard, it looks more like tougher, and it'll go with the Leonidas 300 vibe. I'm going for with the beard. Thoughts?
Listen, you do you, man. I ain't going to tell you how to enjoy things, but it's a lot of effort. And keep in mind, I've seen a lot of dudes do that. And if you sweat a lot, especially wearing a full cage like that, it's going to drip, and it's going to get all over your jersey. Nah. I'm telling you, it's going to more hassle than you think it's going to be.
Well, we have a jersey budget. I'm sure the team won't mind if there's like black like beard dye coming down on the jerseys. On
if
the
you
white
can
home
figure
jerseys.
out a way to drip it that it drips your signature somewhere on it, maybe. But other than that, I don't know. Go for it. But I think you're going to rue the day you ever came up with that idea.
Oh, that would be tricky. That would be tricky. Speaking of which, I did want to say, last week we talked about doing a podcast in this accent, and I talked about if we. My apologies. I'll stop it. Listening back to it is kind of tough. If we had X amount of Patreon members sign up last week, we were going to do every single episode with me doing this Southern accent. And we had, I think, we're almost at 50 now, 50 Patreon members. I want to say a couple things. 50, I'll think about doing the Southern accent for every single episode. And at 100, Dave is going to rejoin social media. That was the original deal we made in the summer, right? 100?
Yeah, it was somewhere around 100, and I'm glad to see we're halfway there. As far as doing the accent, I was reading the YouTube comments on last week's episode, was chatting with, not chatting, but responding to a few people in there, and there was a couple that kind of said, careful that accent. Other people said the more you do it, the more it's going to stick, and the longer you stay in Biloxi, the longer it's going to stick. So you may not have to put on said accent for the audience. It may just appropriate your vocal cords.
Well, bless your heart, David.
That's a big one. Yeah, saw that. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. There was another one. Bless your cotton socks is a different region, but bless your cotton socks is another one.
I was told the other day that bless your heart is country slang or southern slang for you're an idiot.
Well, it's an innocence thing. Like, oh, God bless your heart for being so innocent.
When I thought to myself, I'm like, hold on for a second. I've been told bless your heart a couple times since I've been here.
Well, listen, if you ain't from here, you're from somewhere else. Bless your heart.
Hey, speaking of which, in all seriousness, though, how is the snow in Winnipeg? Is there snow on the ground yet?
No, not. We've had a couple of snow days where you kind of go, oh boy, here it is, and then it warms up the week later and it melts. And as it stands right now, all we have is the snow outside of the Canland Sports Highlander Arena, just off of Ellis Avenue there, and probably in a few shopping malls where they've just stacked it up in the parking lot. Other than that, no, streets are clear. I mean, it's chilly. It was below zero for the first time today, but that would be below 32 in Fahrenheit if my math is right. But for the first time in a couple of weeks, we were double digits last week.
Wow, that's fantastic for end of November. But can I ask a story, though?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Can you please tell the story of the traffic guy you guys used to have on the morning radio show, the TV version? Can you please tell that story? It's fantastic.
Refresh my memory. I've had a bunch of them. Which story in particular?
Okay, so when you had the morning TV show, right, like the actual broadcast, like morning radio TV show, this is like 5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was, and the morning weather guy was just like an iPhone shot video out of the dash of a car parked on the somewhere on the side of the road. Do we remember this or no?
Well, we had Brian Barkley, but that was at a different station. Bless his heart, loved that man. We had Scotty the intern for a period of time. He was on Power at the TV. I can't remember if we did we do traffic?
Yeah, it was literally a segment where you talk about the traffic for a split second, and then it would pan to a shot. It was literally some guy in like a mid 2000s Toyota Corolla, and the camera would just be out the window, and he'd be like, "Hey, Dave, so it looks like the weather's kind of clearing up and the roads are okay. Back to you." And there was no face. It was just like a shot out the window, just down some random street. It could be like Saskatchewan Avenue or Panet or whatnot, but the guy's just pulled over with the blinkers on, giving you a traffic report from the side of the road.
That it sounds like that may have just been like a bit. I don't think it was a regular bit that we did on the show because I mean I remember us doing traffic, but I think my co-host handled that inside of the studio, so it could have just been a one-off bit. It sounds something like I would do. It sounds very idiotic and simple. So yeah, I'll admit to it, guilty. I'm glad you have a fonder memory of it than I do, though.
That is what kind of inspired me for the original idea of me coming in for $20 a day to come read weather and traffic for you for the morning show once I retire from hockey one day.
Wow, what a diva. Jeez,
what do you
that's
mean?
high price. Holy moly.
20 smacks?
You want me to pay you $20 for something that any one of us in the studio could do?
Well, let's break this down for a second, okay? So I was making $150 US this season per week in the Fed, and that works out to about $22 a day US, which is about $32 a day Canadian with the fantastic Canadian dollar, $33 a day. So for for $13 less, you get an extra 2 hours of work out of me and morale, and I don't stink.
No.
It's a great deal.
I get way less. Your math is terrible. So if you're getting paid, let's just say $32 a day Canadian over the course of 24 hours, that's just over $1 per hour. And if you're coming in for my 4-hour show, if you got $5, that would still be taken out of my budget.
See, I've flipped the perspective on its head, though. I'm not getting $1 an hour for 24 hours. I'm getting $33 an hour for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And that's it. Then I'm unemployed the next 23 or 22 and a half hours.
Listen, I think you focus on the hockey. I think that's where your head needs to be. And if and when that day ever comes, I'll negotiate you down from there.
Well, I look forward to it, Mr. Wheeler.
Me too.
$5,000 or I walk.
Wow.
That's it.
Driving a hard bargain. Jeez. Speaking of which, after the, I don't even know what to call it now. The game. We'll refer to it as the game. Any word on a possible start again in the near future?
Yeah. Okay. So let's expand on that a little bit because I know there was a lot of heat in the comment section for that episode and a couple of my comments. You ready to go, Dave? Is there anything that comes to mind specifically about the heat for you?
I just listen. I think you got what you wanted out of that comment you made on last week's episode. The people down in the comment section got what they wanted. It was a door open for them to go, oh, all right. And they started firing away. So, listen, everyone's happy. There was some engagement there. Now I think we just need to go back and focus on the hockey and make sure that you're putting your pad on one pad at a time. We'll go from there.
Well, for the record, the comment that I made last week was that I don't care about hockey in the same way that I used to as a kid. And although that really, really triggered the keyboard warriors, I told you in last week's episode that would get them out of the woodworks. That would flush all of them out of their hole, and they'll become in the comment section. I knew it was going to happen. But I posted that clip on Instagram and on TikTok, and I got messages from lots of guys playing in the CHL and other minor pro areas. They're like, dude, these people don't get it. Like when you stop caring and you detach yourself from the result and that it doesn't define you, which was the big part that I said last week. This does not define me as a person. It makes it so much more enjoyable as opposed to, oh my God, I could get released. I could get traded. I could get called up. I could get sent down. What if this performance wasn't good enough? And you just have this anxiety-riddled brain and this mindset that just is self-fulfilling for self-destruction, in my opinion, personally. Because realistically, although you do sign a yearly contract and the team does own your rights as property for 3 years, I know that doesn't make sense, but that's how the rules work. This is a day-to-day thing. So I could be up in the SP tomorrow. I could be down and have no team tomorrow. You have no idea what could happen tomorrow. I mean, in literally less than an hour, I was on 3 teams 2 weeks ago. I was in Watertown at the beginning of the hour. I was in Port Huron by the midpoint of the hour, and I was with the Mississippi Seawolves at the top of the next hour. Like, you never know what's going to happen. So detaching yourself from the result and not putting all that pressure on yourself, I think, makes life significantly more enjoyable for everything, not just hockey.
Well, look, I'm going to give you a bit of an analogy here, and I'm going to relate it to my industry and radio. But I mean, it's very you can draw parallels to it in almost any entertainment industry. But when you start off with a very small audience, right? You start off with who are your biggest fans? Your mom and your dad. When you start skating, right? Mom and dad are the biggest fans out there. 100% of your 100% of the people watching you love you. And then things start increasing from there. And then you hit a certain threshold where your audience becomes big enough that people are watching you. The majority of them are going to like you. There's a small percentage that is not going to like you. This is the way it goes. It's the law of averages. So the more your audience grows and the more people that are watching you, guess what? It's great, but that also means that small percentage, maybe the percentage stays the same, but the actual number of people is growing. So here's the trick. Let's just say for easy math, you've got 90% fans, 10% haters. Focus on those 90% fans. Those are the ones that really want to support you. The second you start really overly focusing on that 10%, that 10% will grow to 15, it'll grow to 20, then it'll grow to 25 and 30. Then you got a lot more people not liking you. And the more that you feed into that, the more that you feed into them and pay attention to them, the people that love you go, why are you paying attention to them? They don't even like you. We love you. Pay attention to us. And finally go, forget it. And they leave. And now all of a sudden that percentage of people that don't like you has taken over the majority. And then you're in trouble. So always focus on the people that are there to support you. Spend the time with them. They're the ones that want to lift you up.
You know what? I'm getting deja vu. And not to bring us back to these types of stories, but they always hit right at the heart. Reminds me of a girlfriend I used to have many, many years ago. Mostly neglected her for a while, to the point where she left. And then when she left, it was too late. Right? Is that not the comparison?
Yeah. Like, as I said, you can draw parallels to many, many, many different things. The entertainment industry, relationships being another one. Yeah. I mean, listen, you got to focus on the ones that are going to make you better.
I couldn't agree more. And to the listeners of the show, whether you're on the YouTube video version, which hopefully you enjoy this new background. I got the coffee table. The guys are out right now the dining room island. Excuse me. They got the Mississippi Seawolves logo. I took that off the floor, put it on the chair, so we got a nice little background for the week. If you're on the Apple or Spotify version, I guess maybe you can hear it. But we love you and thank you for listening every single week for the episodes on Sunday. Last week's episode was another smashing success. Well over 10, I think, close to 11, almost 12,000 listens at the time of us recording right now. And then last week's was an even bigger smashing success with over 15,000. So we've put up, I would assume by the time this week finishes, the last two episodes doing probably close to 30,000 plus listens in 2 days or 2 weeks. Like, that's insane. That's fantastic.
Listen, as you mentioned, everyone that's on the YouTube, awesome. Thank you. All the people that are on the Apple and Spotify and all the other podcast platforms, awesome. Thank you. But an extra special thank you to all of the Patreon sign up that you mentioned earlier. And I know you always like to throw it out. We have conversations off the show saying, we should ask what the people want. We should ask what the people want. I would like to answer that question. I'll tell you what I want. I would love to see, and I know we get little snapshots here and there when you do the vlog or when you do the podcast, you'll kind of do some B-roll when we're talking of your living situation. But that fascinates me. Like, I'm always curious to know, what goes on in the off hours, because there's a lot more off hours than there are at the rink. And so where you're living, like where are you resting your head? I would love to see, more of what's going on, like a full five and dime of where you're staying in comparison to other places. So Patreons, if I can talk him into it, maybe expect one of those. If you want to back me up on that, please feel free to message the Patreon page and sign up to be a Patreon member. 3 different levels of being a Patreon. There's the support, you get some goodies, and then you get a lot of goodies. 3 different levels, and they're all very affordable. You can go check them out at patreon.com/Slangin The Bizkit.
Absolutely. If you're in the video version, you can kind of see behind me. So if you see right behind me kind of in the corner, it's not there at this moment in time, but that's where I put my mattress. Our housing is full. So I've been putting a mattress kind of on the in the back corner of the living room and just sleeping there. And then when the guys like to watch Enterouge until 2 a.m. right here on the living room couch, I take the mattress, I slide it into the garage, I put some sheets over top, and I sleep in the garage. That's actually a true story.
Great show, by the way.
The intro song? Who does the intro song? Is that you two?
No, God, no. I think it's just kind of one of those, like, it's the same story as like who wrote the song for Friends. It was the Rembrandts, but I think it's similar with the Entourage. I'm all right, I need you. I don't know who sings it, but I know the song.
It's so catchy. I was walking to Walmart the other day and I just had it stuck in my head on repeat. I'm picking up groceries and I hear the Entourage song and I just can't get it out of my head. It's fantastic.
It's a great show, too. Loosely based, and I think the first kind of half season covered what Mark Wahlberg's first experiences in Hollywood looked like, where he brought all his boys down from Boston and just had them as their entourage and kind of gave them all jobs with Turtle and E and the whole crew. And then it just kind of, spun into what it is and what we ended up seeing of it with Adrian Grenier who played the titular character of Vinny Chase on the show. I've got fond memories of that show. The movie I thought was all right too. Did you see the movie?
I did not see the movie.
Oh, the movie. Hey, listen, it puts a nice little bow on everything. You got to check out the movie.
I'll put it on the to-do list for the guys late at night. Put the movie on instead of the TV show.
Yeah, well, listen, that show's so old. Keep in mind, I was watching that back before I met my wife, for crying out loud. So that show's throwing stones at 20 years. I bet you a lot of the guys that watch the show, bet you they don't even know there's a movie.
Well, I could tell that with the all the soul patches and the razor thin chin straps. One of the guys has on the show.
Yeah,
that's
Johnny
like
Drama.
early 2000s. Yeah, that's early 2000s right there.
Hey, bro, are those calves real? Great show.
Speaking of show, did you happen to watch our game in Columbus the other day for their home opener or no?
No. You know why?
Why?
Because you weren't playing. Just being honest. Listen, I've got enough shit going on in my life, I really, really do, that I am not going to watch a game. Listen, I've got people that ask me all the time, hey, my kid's playing in 12 and under AA. Would you like to come see him play? No! I barely know you. Why would I come watch your offspring? I couldn't even pick them out of a lineup, for crying out loud. No! It's all the same thing to you. Do you think I really want to go watch a game of a bunch of guys who I don't know if you're not playing at all? No!
I have to tell a quick story. Okay, I had another ex-girlfriend. This is a hilarious story. I remember because obviously, like when I was in Motor City, I would only warm up. I would never actually play the games, and so I would, instead of telling her the time for puck drop, I would tell her the time for warm-ups, and she'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'll tune in," and she'd watch the warm-ups and then leave. That was it, because she knew I wasn't going to play. And then I remember telling our general manager in Motor City that, and he's like, "Make sure she watches the full games." I'm not playing, dude. Why would she?
Yeah, because we need those streaming numbers. Listen, I love the fact that my wife, when she leaves the house in the morning, she'll leave the Google Home on streaming my morning show, and I appreciate that. But by the time I get home, I'm off the air already, so I just say, okay, Google, no, stop.
Okay, well, how about I tell you about the home opener instead?
Please.
All right, so this weekend we had a fantastic road trip to Columbus, Georgia in the South. Now, this is the first time that I've been in Columbus in about 4 years. Now, for the original watchers of the vlog, you recognize this. So I went to the inaugural camp for the Columbus River Dragons. Long story short, I went down to a free agent camp with the Birmingham Bulls. Sabas had a guy in the locker room who just so happened to be a player coach undercover. Invited me to come play for the Columbus River Dragons, and that lasted all of God knows how many days, not months, not weeks, days. And then I was sent off packing. And I will say, in that 4-year time, the atmosphere, the energy, and the electricity in that building, and what seems like the culture from the outside seems night and day different. Like that Columbus crowd packed the arena. They were electric. They were hostile. They were mean. They were angry and pissed off to our starting goalie, Joe Sheppard, who, by the way, I think had possibly the greatest goaltending performance I've ever seen in the Fed. And to have a good goaltending performance in the Fed is unheard of. I mean, there's a reason why usually only 2 to 3 goalies every year run a 900 save percentage and everybody else is in like the 870s, because the league is so offensively focused. I mean, Shep must have had 26, 27 saves in the first period, and we're only down 2-0. Like, he kept us in there.
Wow. Well, listen, I know you were singing his praises when you were standing across the red line from him in warm-up one time, and the fact that you got to play with him, I know you were excited about that. So, you know what? Look, it's like you'll love this analogy. It's like Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. You know you're a good quarterback. You know you're going to do good things, but, if there's a guy that has more tenure and is a little bit better, why wouldn't you take that opportunity to learn from that guy?
Absolutely, and that is one thing that I picked up on too, is like just watching like the little details that Shep does day in, day out. Whether we're at yoga, we're at the team gym, morning skate, practice games. Like, Shep is a professional. Shep he's good at what he's doing. He's been in the league, I think, 3 years, maybe 4 years. Second year with the Seawolves, and he's talented. And I'm on top of being an incredible goaltender in the league, I'm just honestly privileged to call him a friend. He's a wicked dude. We had a wicked coffee date the other day. I mean, even his old lady flew in the other day, and I'd never met her, never talked to her. And first thing she says, "Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. Joe's been saying nice things about you for a while, and it's nice that your teammates and that your friendship is happening and whatnot." So, to Mrs. Sheppard, I'm so sorry I forgot your name. My sincere apologies if you do end up watching the show. It was very nice to meet you. You're a very nice lady, and you have an incredible man that to call yours, Mr. Joe Sheppard.
Aw.
How's that for a glowing review?
Kumbaya.
But anyway, so back to the game for a second. Not the touchy-feely happy-go-lucky stuff. So Shep keeps us in the game. We end up making a comeback. We must have gotten outshot 55-20. Back-to-back games giving up 55 plus. Actually, back-to-back games giving up, back-to-back games giving up 50 plus shots. I think
you need to put out an APB for defensemen in that league. What the hell, man?
No comment. It's not my department. I stop pucks, I film videos, I hit upload on YouTube, and I open the door more often than not. That's what I do. That's my job description.
Now, listen, I know I got one eye. I know I'm in my mid-40s, but Jaromir Jagr's able to do it. I'm pretty sure that if I could appropriate some gear, because I don't have any gear left, I'm pretty sure if I could appropriate some gear, I would love to come out and at least block one or two for you.
You know what? Shout out to Nick Rush, the former play-by-play announcer for the Seawolves. He did a great job last year. I can't remember if he got fired or if he got let go or if he quit. But he's not with the team anymore. So I guess if we need a defenseman and a play-by-play guy, maybe we can get you cheap, Dave.
Yeah, could you imagine just having me mic'd up? I'll do the play-by-play while I'm on the ice. Oh, my God, that'd be a first.
Dave, what are you seeing back there? Hold on, I got to go to puck battle.
Never mind player coach. How about play-by-play defenseman?
I will say that's something that Joe Pace, I don't think, has ever done is be a play-by-play guy on top of the job description he does already.
Well, challenge accepted. I'm sure Joe would love that. Mic him up. He'll do live play-by-play to the YouTube channel. My God, that'd be amazing. $175 a week, play-by-play and third-line defenseman pair. I used to play with a guy, I've mentioned him on the show before, Travis Gladgy, one of the most natural goal scorers I've ever played with, and he wouldn't necessarily do the play-by-play, but he'd do the sound effects after he'd go around. A guy would be like, oh, and he goes around him, oh, and he dangles around this guy, and he would literally do the play-by-play while he was dangling around guys.
That's a guy I got to put a microphone on.
Oh, yeah, I would love that.
Speaking of, though, so we, during the game, we had a bit of a scuffle. And I didn't notice it until afterwards, but remember the best-looking man in the league, Yanni Lirakos, the Greek freak, I call him?
Yeah, of course.
So a little bit of a scuffle. One of the guys, and I'll put a video on the video version of the show, one of the guys drops his stick from Columbus, and Yanni comes in and just stomps out the stick, same way that my boy Babs in Motor City's done a couple times. Just stomps the stick in half, and obviously the Columbus guys don't appreciate that because that stick was worth more than some guys making a week. But obviously the video version, or the videos in the video version of the show, but what a move by the Greek freak. He's a unreal release. Probably one of the better shots I've seen in the Fed, period. Yanni Lirakos. We
used to, when those the one-piece fiber sticks came into the league, and keep in mind they weren't composite where they were. Like, there was a touch-and-go process, but it started with the Easton aluminum, and then you'd plug in your wood stick, and then it was the aluminum blade, and then it kind of came into one. We figured out that it was the first and second generation of the one piece that came out. They had a trigger point right kind of down in the flex point, depending on where the flex point was. But if we were killing a penalty, we would go grab the old Easton, like the original Easton aluminums. And if you were standing in front of the net, if you just hit that flex point and those sticks, they would break instantly. And all you had to do is put a little, just smack it a little bit. No different than you would, if you were playing defense, but for whatever reason in front of the net, if they're standing there, you can get away with a couple of hacks there, stick would break instantly. All right, we had an amazing penalty kill just based on that.
And the stick budget went up.
Oh, for them, absolutely. Wouldn't break our stick, it'd break theirs.
But yeah, so that happens there. Like I mentioned, we tied the game up late. The goal was called off kick motion, so we ended up losing 5-4. No, sorry, with the empty netter. So we ended up losing 5-3. It would have been 4-4. So it was
right.
5-3 with the empty netter loss. Mm-hmm. And now here's a good story for it. I got the video to put on the video version, Dave. So when teams travel, usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, the home team feeds the visiting team, right? Makes sense? That way, we get a meal when we come there and they get a meal when they come to our building, and then, vice versa. Everybody goes home happy and not hungry and having to eat at the gas station. So I come out of the room. One of the, I guess the directors for Columbus is like, hey, post-game meal is over here. You can come on in here. And I was like, oh, is this just for us? And he says, no, actually, you guys are going to be eating together with the opposing team. And I think, oh, boy. What could possibly go wrong here eating with the other team after a feisty 5-3 loss, right?
Oh, boy.
So I go in, and I go in there, and I'm filming, and they have a very nice buffet of Italian food. They got the Caesar salad with actual curls of Parmesan cheese. Shout out whoever came up with that idea. That was fantastic. A little fresh lemon wedge on the edge. Garlic toast, lots of herbs on there. That was fantastic, nicely toasted. They had meatballs, spaghetti, all that type of stuff. So I build this plate, and I'm having a good time. I'm excited to eat. And one of the guys comes in from the Columbus, I guess like directors or management, whatever, and he says, hey, man, you guys aren't feeding us tomorrow night. So we have to kick you out. I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you're not you're not feeding our team when we come to you, so I'm going to have to ask you to put the food back. I already had this like whole plate of food already ready to go. And so I looked at him, I looked at the food, I looked back at the guy who served me the buffet, and I just handed them, like, it was almost like you could see time stand still as I handed him the plate, and he looked at the food, looked back up at me, back at the plate, looked at the Columbus guy. He took the food, and then I walked away. I know that was very dramatic, but basically I ended up not eating.
Do you think he was just messing with you?
No, he was serious. He ended up apologizing later, but they were very pissed off that we weren't feeding them when they came to us the following night, so they kicked me out and I didn't get to eat.
Why weren't you feeding them?
I don't know. We'd have to ask our soon-to-be play-by-play announcer.
No comment.
I don't know why, to be honest. That's actually a good question. It was to my knowledge that most teams feed each other when the other team comes, but it is what it is. I will say we had a fantastic meal Saturday night for the home game. We had a catering company come in. We had brisket, garlic mashed potatoes, cheesecake. Oh my God. I got a video. I'll put on the video version of the show. It was fantastic. That was probably, actually, now that I think about it, the best meal I've ever had as a member of the FPHL. Period. Fantastic brisket.
Okay, well, hang on. We got to go back here. Was there a food fight? Food fight in the mess hall? What happened?
No, there was no food fight. I literally gave the plate back to the cook or whatever, like the guy who was serving me, and then I walked out. I walked out with no food. I just gave the food back and was like, here you go. I don't know what he did with the plate of food, but that was it. And then there was a little bit of a brouhaha in the hallway when I walked out. That was unrelated to the food incident, but there was a bit of a scuffle and a "I'll see you in the parking lot and I don't like yous" said.
For the record, word may have gotten around because I know that you used to sneak into the media lunchroom when you were playing in Motor City, and I know that they had kind of looked at you side-eyed a few times going in there for extra slices of pizza. So just saying, maybe there's a sign up on the door saying somewhere that if you've seen this guy, don't feed him.
I actually do have a confession to make mid-game in Columbus. I was going for a walk to try to find a bathroom because the bathrooms that they gave us, there was no like tile on there, so it was just concrete. And I found that out the hard way because I walked on it. I was like, oh, now I got no edges. So, all right, I got to go to the bathroom. So I go. Our one single toilet is full, so I'm walking around trying to find a place. And I'm like, God, I got to go, and I'm kind of hungry. And one of the media guys like, we got extra Chick-fil-A in the media room, and I'm like, well, don't mind if I do. He's like, come on in. And I was invited, for the record. I was invited. I didn't barge in. I was invited. And I walked in with skate guards on, and there was no Chick-fil-A sandwiches, but there was a lot of Chick-fil-A chips and drinks. So I did help myself to that in the first intermission.
So you did get fed?
I did get fed mid-game, yes.
The truth comes out, ladies and gentlemen.
This is slowly going to turn into a food reviews podcast or a food reviews vlog instead of a hockey. Actually, you know what? In all seriousness, if you had to do a breakdown of the time that I spend, A, eating and talking about my meals, B, warming up and opening the door, and C, playing, what does that pie chart look like? Let us know in the comments section. Dave, what do you think?
I think you're missing out on the coffee.
Oh, yeah, don't forget about the coffee. When I make my morning pour-over coffee or stop at the gas stations around my 5 to 6 trips to Starbucks a week.
I'm assuming the majority of the people that ingest this podcast are also watching the vlog, but between your workouts, your getting ready, your practice and whatnot, I think it's a really good flow. I think it's a really nice pie chart of all of them. But like I said, I actually giggled quite a bit when you ran some B-roll on your vlog there a couple of weeks ago of the guys playing lightsabers with the mop and broom in the house.
Oh, in Watertown.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love. I think that's the kind of stuff that people love to see. They love to see the curtain peeled back a little bit. Well, listen, I know one of the reasons why you don't want to show a lot of that stuff in the behind the scenes is because most of the guys that you're filming are not wearing sheath underwear, and they should be. So I think if you get the boys hooked up with the sheath underwear, then maybe you'd be a little more okay with it.
I will say there is a significant amount of guys on the team that do ask about sheath underwear, and if you're one of the guys on my team, or if you're the part of the general population, let me tell you why you need a pair of sheath underwear. Sheath Underwear has been the presenting sponsor for the show since day one, numero uno, with Dave and I returning for the podcast about almost 2 years ago. And the reason being is that they have this incredible bamboo mesh technology that keeps you cool, comfortable, and aerated. They also have the dual pouch, this is the reason why I buy this underwear, folks. It is the separated, segregated compartment to put your dick and your balls into. So they are aerated. They are not sticking to the side of your leg. They're not stuck together or bat winging. You're comfortable the way that it should be. And right now, when you go to the link in the video description on the YouTube version of the show or the podcast notes on Apple or Spotify, use the code BIZKIT69, BIZKIT 69, will get you 20% off the greatest pair of underwear money has ever bought you. I promise you that, only from the team at Sheath.
Amazing. I got a pair of them on right now. Actually, listen, for those that are watching the YouTube version, you might have to be my age or a little bit older, but I want to throw this by you. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Shining. Classic. Jack Nicholson. You familiar with it? They go into the hotel in Colorado. They like take care of it over the winter, and then he ends up going a little squirrely. The floor in the hotel. Tell me if this doesn't look like the floor in the hotel. This is the Sheath Underwear.
Oh, Jesus.
Is that not the floor from The Shining? It is. Look at it. Look at it. Why am I wearing this? Anyways.
If you're in the audio version of the show, you can't see that. You can only hear that.
Another reason to sign up to be a Patreon member.
For an extra $20, Dave will let you shave him down there.
But who's our guy at Sheath? Who's our guy at Sheath?
Robert, by the way.
Ask him. Ask him if he's a Shining fan. If he says yes, then these are on purpose.
You know, there was an all-you-can-eat buffet at in Watertown. It was about $20 for the all-you-can-eat buffet, and they had a men's prostate clinic next door. And for an extra $10, they changed the gloves in between serving you. Good times.
Always
Keep it positive.
times,
Keep it positive here, right?
Always keeping it positive. Listen, I think that's the one thing I can say out of all of the comments that happened down in the YouTube page over the last couple episodes is that people love the positive. They love the positive, and they love the fact that even though you're jumping hurdles, you're still doing it with a smile on your face. So God love you.
I try to the best of my ability. You know, because at the end of the day, doing this is better than, you know, when I got fired at Best Buy or, you know, any of the other countless jobs that I've worked. Like playing hockey for a living and ultimately being my own boss, because, you know, doing this podcast and my vlog is my full-time thing, and that is always going to be better than, you know, doing any of the other full-time jobs out there, right?
By the way, you want to see this real quick? Let me see if I can pull this off here. For those watching on the video version. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. But I have I can actually show you. I found it is the floor from The Shining. 100%. 100% it is. If you can do a Google image search and put that, it is. You want to do a side by side? You want to see the sheath again? Do a side by side. That is 100% the floor of the hotel in The Shining. I promise you.
That actually transitions fantastic, because the next thing I was going to tell you was when we came back from Columbus, so we own the bus. So it's not like a Motor City where we rent the bus, or in Watertown, I think we rent the bus as well. Joe Pace owns the bus. And so like we're coming back. I'm now trying to settle my stuff into the house, and I come back outside and there's Joe at the back of the bus, and I look at him and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Shitter hasn't been cleaned since last season."
Who is he? Cousin Eddie from National Lampoon's? Shitter's full.
Honestly, now that you mention it, I didn't think of that, but that literally was what it was like. He had a bucket, he pulled the cord, and he's like, "God, it stinks." I mean, I would assume, hopefully it was drained in March, so that way it was just like the April waste that sat all summer and is in the bus still, but yeah, interesting.
Man, listen, here's the thing. That's the age-old question of owning or leasing or renting, is that when you own, it's on you.
You imagine Joe calls the commish, Don Kieran, and, "Hey, Don, you mind coming and cleaning my shitter for me?"
Yeah, hey, listen, you guys own this bus, right? Shitter's full. Get on that, please. Thank you. We'll see you in Syracuse.
You know what? I was told a quote by somebody last year in Motor City that this league will age you like nothing else. Like you can play a season, you'll age 5 years. But I will say, like, when you look back on it, like some of the stories that I've told you and that I've shared on the podcast, like, these are things that just you can't write this type of stuff. Like, it's just hilarious to look back and tell these types of stories. Like when you and I sit down for lunch in the summer in Winnipeg, when we go to your favorite spot at Earl's, and we're talking about Joe Pace, dumping the shitter for the first time in 6 months, like, we'll have a laugh and we'll enjoy ourselves, right?
Well, listen, man, it's as I told you there a couple of weeks ago, the passing train. It's just literally snapshots of life all the way through. That's literally all it is. By the way, speaking of legendary status and whatnot, happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans down there. By the way, happy Thanksgiving weekend, because the NHL knows better. They didn't do any games this past, for what you're watching, this past Thursday, for Thanksgiving Thursday. But the previous Tuesday as well, they didn't do any games. I thought that was really weird. There was no football on, there was no hockey, there was no nothing. They had no one to compete against, but they cleared their schedule. And so I actually went into my YouTube and a lot of things that I have on my watch later list. And there's one that popped up, and the Buffalo Sabres actually put it on. God, it was amazing. They pulled out old Rob Ray, the Razor, and Tie Domi brought them together, sat them down on the floor of the arena, brought the score clock down at ice level, and they replayed all 13 of the fights that Rob Ray and Tie Domi had against each other, and had these two old gladiators laugh and comment on it and say, oh, I remember that. Oh, you did this and you did that. Awesome. So cool. If you haven't watched that yet and you're a hockey fan, Rob Ray, Tie Domi, just YouTube those two names and that video will pop up. My God. Now that is a perfect example of those guys getting their memories triggered of things that happened back in the day and explaining like that was the time and that was the difference and here's why I did it and here was the downfall and here's you and here's me and here's the fallout of it. So based on what you're saying, all these little things that happen, you're going to forget about. It's possible you'll forget about a lot of them for upwards of 10 to 15 years, but something will trigger that memory and you'll be able to sit down and it was like you were there yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it goes both ways. Like, I will become eventually the one guy one day who's like, hey, I remember when I was playing pro hockey for the Motor City Rockers or for the Watertown Wolves or the Mississippi Sea Wolves, or I was playing in Sweden for whatever team, and this happened with this guy, and we'll sit down and have a laugh. But that's ultimately that's why we play. Is that not the reason why? Like, the guys in the locker room, the atmosphere, the energy, the teammates, the camaraderie.
I think there's different motivations. I think there's different motivations for playing. I think some people do it because they don't know anything else. Like, I'll be honest with you, Connor Bedard, if God-fearing, I pray nothing happens to this kid because they really think he is a blue chipper. But let's just say something happens to Connor Bedard tomorrow and he's unable to play. I don't think he'd know what to do with himself. I don't think he literally knows what else to do. I think all those other things that you mentioned are byproducts of it. I don't think that's what he's doing it for. I think he's doing it because that's all he's ever known. That's it. Other guys are doing it for the money. The more money they can make, that's what they're in for. This is an opportunity for them to make a lot of money in a short period of time and hopefully not have to do anything for the rest. Some people do it for the spotlight. I was reading an article the other day about it's really interesting how in the NBA you've got a lot of these players who want to play in the big markets like New York. They want to play in LA. They want to play in these big markets. Where in Canada, some guys, more so than the NBA, shy away from the Torontos. They shy away from the Calgarys. They shy away from these high-pressure markets, especially when it comes to playoffs. So I think motivations are different on why we play.
My situation more specifically, there's been more adversity kind of going up and down, and I'm not going to lie, the adversity is not enjoyable. So, the guys kind of keep me coming back. The atmosphere keeps me coming back, and just, I guess, pushing the boulder up the hill, if you want to put it that way.
You know what I think brings a lot of guys back to the locker room? Seeing your beard. Seeing that beautifully trimmed beard.
You like it?
Well, I know how it's achieved.
Well, I just did it right before we started recording the show from the team at Manscaped.com with the new beard hedger.
What? Tell me more.
Well, David, it's the Manscaped Beard Hedger, and it's got 20 different lengths. It's got a 60-minute battery life, and it is waterproof as well, only from the team at Manscaped.com. And right now, when you go to the link in the video description for this show, because Manscaped is the second presenting sponsor for the show, and they have been for quite some time, you use the code BIZKIT, BIZKIT, for 20% off and free shipping, only from the team at Manscaped.com. And you get the same Leonidas 300 look, the tapered look. What do you think, Dave? You like this?
Yeah, I like the color. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy things, but keep the color. I think it looks sharp on you.
I got to get rid of this white little streak. You see this here?
No, you've earned it. That's good. I like it.
My hairdresser in Winnipeg, she tells me she charges people $200 to put that streak in. I was like, I'll pay you $200 to take it out.
You like Pepe Le Pew?
Yeah, basically. A little skunk stripe, so they say.
Exactly.
We should get back to...
I was just going to say, I appreciate the fact that you haven't brought it up yet. I appreciate it, but I will bring it up because I know there's a lot of people that are just waiting for it to be mentioned so they can go down and start commenting. Yeah, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lost the Grey Cup. They did. Did they blow it? I don't know. I think good old CFL, last minute of the game, Bombers are up by... what were they up? They're up by 3. Touchdown scored by the Montreal Alouettes. In the final minute of the game, Bombers had a chance to try and get it down the field and nothing. So still, two Grey Cup championships out of 4 years, 4 straight appearances in the Grey Cup. It was amazing. I was actually next door in Toronto, Ontario, when it was happening next door in Hamilton. I was at a staff Christmas party in Vaughan, Ontario, but we managed to watch the game on the screen, and believe me when I tell you, it really killed my holiday spirit.
You and I should go to a Bomber game in BC against the Lions next year in Vancouver, like during the summer.
That's actually one of the very few stadiums that I haven't been to watch a football game. I have been inside BC Place, but not to see a Lions game. I think I've got, hang on. So I've got Commonwealth, Edmonton. I've got McMahon, Calgary. I've got the old Saskatchewan Roughriders. I don't have the new one. I haven't been to Mosaic yet, but that thing's apparently a beautiful stadium. IG Field, obviously here. I've seen an Alouettes game. I haven't been to BMO Field to see a football game, but I have been to Rogers Centre to see a football game, and I have been to Ottawa as well to see a game. So yeah, BC would definitely be on my bucket list.
Okay, maybe we'll make the plan for this July for a game. Or do they start in July? Yeah, July. They go. The boys of summer.
They start in June now. Yeah.
Okay, preseason to regular season. Let's go. But let's. We do have one more thing to talk about, and that was the second of the home and home with the Columbus River Dragons. So that was their home opener, and I'll put the video version of the show after. So we were leaving the arena, and the Columbus fans. Remember, I mentioned like they are insane, but in a good way. Like we have security outside of our door. Like a full team of security, so that the fans can't like attack us because they get pretty passionate.
Like, are we talking are we talking like Peguis, Manitoba, crazy, or what are we talking here?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Peguis Juniors got nothing on the fans of the Columbus River Dragons and Columbus Junior. Let me tell you that. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no res dogs outside the arena either. So.
No, there's River Dragons.
Yeah. Well, there's dragons. I don't know if they come from the river, but
I would love. They would never do it in Canada, but I would love to see someone have the balls to name their junior team the Res Dogs. I would love that. I think. Oh my God, that would be a great logo.
Doesn't OCN call their arena the Res Dome? That's like the nickname for the Res Dome.
Yeah.
What a name. But so we're leaving the arena with the security detail in front of us with the gates and everything. And I hear from behind me some guy yell, "Hey, Trav, you suck. And if you don't come talk to me, I'm unsubscribing." And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to go talk to the guy. What am I going to do? I can't risk having somebody unsubscribe. Because originally he said, "Trav, you suck." And I was like, all right, just completely ignore him and go back to the bus. But then when he said he was going to unsubscribe, that I took personally. And I was like, okay, I got to go talk to this guy. Mm-hmm. So I ended up talking to... I'm going to say about 10, 15 different Columbus River Dragon fans, all very, very nice Southern people. Like one guy just became a father, came down to come say hi. One guy, Steve, who I've put on the podcast before, bought my jersey from Columbus in 2019, and he has that jersey, which was really cool. But we'll put the video version on the show here. There was one Columbus fan. He asked if he could kiss me, and his wife was filming. Obviously, they've had a couple drinks. And I said, you know what? In good spirits, sure, you can do that. And he planted one on me as soft and as rum tasting as it possibly could be. Oh, and a couple other things. It was sloppy. It was all over my cheek. I did have to wipe off part of my beard. It did soak it up quite nicely, actually, now that I think about it. Can kind of still smell it now that I think about it as well. It's been a few days.
God love them.
But yeah, showed it to that guy. Showed it to the Columbus River Dragon fans. They were fantastic. And
good for you for being a good sport, too.
I mean, like these people, they work 9 to 5 jobs. They work full-time jobs. They're putting their hard-earned money into coming to the games. And if even some of the guys that there was actually, hold on, sorry, squirrel moment, Dave. I got ADHD. During the anthems of the game, they had like a pause in between "and the home of the brave," and then in that pause, it got super quiet in the arena, and I don't think the broadcast picked it up because they didn't broadcast the anthems. But some guy at the top of his lungs from the upper deck yelled, "Travis, you suck!" And all the guys on the bench started looking at me. I was like, "Well, he's not wrong."
Well, listen, you name your you name your channel Trav Sucks. You're gonna get that kind of abuse. You know what I mean? Well,
that was the thing, though. Like, if you're supporting the vlogs, you're going to say it for the promo codes, and if you hate me, you're also going to say it. So everybody's saying it, right?
Bingo.
It's good for business, and
there you go.
I don't take it personally, right?
Nah, why should you?
Yeah, and so now back to our home games. So the second of the home and home. Now, we play at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum. Now, fun little history lesson for you. So the original Mississippi Seawolves were playing in the ECHL, East Coast Hockey League, until 2005. Hurricane Katrina came in, wiped out the entire shoreline. I'll show you some video in the video version of the show. Basically, everything on the water is gone. All the sand, all the grass, all the land. That had buildings. There was a massive casino there, all gone from Katrina. But the Coliseum was a safe ground for that. And then in 2009, the Mississippi Surge came back, and they played from 2009 to 2014. They left, and now we came back last year. So this is the second year for the new 2.0 Mississippi Seawolves. And we play at the Coast Coliseum. It's, like I said, right in the beach, right in the water. You'll see from the video version of the show, the drone shots. It is an unreal place to come out of the rink after a morning skate or after practice, to come just like plunk your ass in the sand, toes in the beach. Doesn't get much better after practice, especially when it starts snowing in Winnipeg and it's plus 20 in Biloxi. It's not bad.
Not bad at all, man. Like I told you, I've been down in that neck of the woods before. I've spent a lot of time around the Gulf of Mexico, and that's just one of the challenges you always deal with. Actually, I think I've told the story before, but I was down in New Orleans probably about a year after Katrina, and French Quarter was fine, Mercedes Dome was fine, everything seemed fine, but it wasn't until you started talking to the people. And I eventually jumped into a cab and said, "Hey, can you take me to an area that still looks like Katrina hit it?" He's like, "Yeah, which direction?" And so once you start getting into the neighborhoods and you realize that there are still people that are living up in Baton Rouge, and if they turn on more than one light in the toaster, everything blows. So I mean, I still don't think some people have fully recovered from that. And obviously, even in your area down by Biloxi, there's still people that are just kind of making it work.
Well, and when you drive down the main strip towards the rink, you see every single house and every single business is on stilts, and it's about 19 feet of stilts because that was where the water line in Katrina was. So every single building is Katrina-proof now. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to see that. Well, it's scary, but it's cool to see that, like that history right there, like right in the flesh, if that makes sense.
Well, listen, another perfect example of that is here in Winnipeg, because we are a north flowing river, and we're one of the most northern points before it flows into Lake Winnipeg. But back in I think it was in the 70s, Duff Roblin started working on what they now known as Duff's Ditch, and you can actually see it. Commander Hatfield, the astronaut, said that you can see it from space, but we have a floodway that we open once a year to make sure that our water level from our river doesn't rise high enough. And keep in mind, the Mississippi flows right into the Red River through a series of channels, and had that ditch not been created, downtown would have been flooded by about three floors. In most buildings downtown, like flooded. So there's different ways of doing it, whether you do it on stilts or whether you dig a ditch or whatever it may be. You got to proof these areas. And it was funny, I was I mentioned to somebody down in the YouTube chat from last week there saying, so funny how Wheels thinks that the Gulf of Mexico is so safe, but we got hurricane warnings coming up there. And I thought, yeah, absolutely. But again, that's one of the byproducts of working in that area or living in that area. No different than we're going to get minus 40, minus 45 here in the wintertime. If that happened in Biloxi, you'd kill everybody because you don't know how to prepare for it. But if you're from that area and it happens on a regular basis, you prep for it and you just kind of deal with it as it comes along. And everyone has their own version of that.
David, what's a block heater?
Well, I had a friend of mine who was on my show, on my television show for a period of time, Kelly Butler. He was from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And when he first moved to Winnipeg and thought, man, I can't believe the amount of electric vehicles that you guys have. I'm like, electric vehicles? He's like, yeah, everyone plugs their vehicles in. I'm like, that's for our block heater, dude. He's like, what's a block heater? I'm like, it keeps your shit warm so your car starts and doesn't freeze like a block of ice in the wintertime. But again, if you don't know, you don't know.
I think his career in your radio show lasted about as long as the traffic guy, too,
Exactly. And here we are doing the podcast.
Hey, I'll do a better job in both of them. I'll do it for cheaper. Anyway, we'll discuss after the show. But so the home opener. So the home opener at the Coliseum was electric. Joe Pace said we're going to get about 4,000, maybe less, a little more. We got 4,400, and I'd like to think, based off my time in Motor City and Watertown, I know what a fudged attendance looks like. This was a full 4,400. I think if you look in the video version of the show and of the broadcast, like the whole 100 section is full. Like there's no empty seats. Like it was crazy. Even me being the door opener that I am. And listen, I know a thing or two about looking from the bench, looking up at crowds and estimating the attendance. I looked up and I said, "Damn, that's a lot of people." There was just people and people and people and people and people. It was awesome. It was an electric atmosphere. The fans were crazy. We did fall down 5-0 and then come back to lose 5-2. Might have been 5-3. But they were loving every minute of it, in the words of Loverboy. And yeah, it was a really, really good atmosphere. I obviously would have been nice to have won and to get a start, but yeah.
Which reminds me, I got two things to mention. I got one thing to mention, and then I got a question for you based on the crowd size. First one is you mentioned a Loverboy there. You made a mention in your vlog last week about about Kim Mitchell. Have you been getting heat about this one?
Yeah.
Okay, good. He's not from anywhere around Manitoba.
I got to give a shout out to TJ Connors. He used to work in 92 City and Power.
He followed me at a few stations.
Yeah, he actually was the one that helped me, inspire me to start the original version of his podcast. By the way, it's a true story. But I remember him telling me that. Awesome dude. He's in real estate now, I believe. But shout out to TJ Connors if you're listening. I remember he was telling me Kim Mitchell was from Winnipeg, and that just kind of stuck in my mind. And then when I was talking to the guys about Kim Mitchell and Go for a Soda, Nobody Hurts, Nobody Cries, I was like, oh, he's a Winnipeg guy. And then I looked back after, now that the video's up, and it's like, I should have done more research.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, he's from Ontario.
Tough luck. Sarnia. Go Sting.
I will say this. Actually, I'll ask you this question, and keep in mind this comes from a guy who's done everything from stand-up comedy to standing in front of 40,000 people at a stadium. And for me, and keep in mind I'm on a microphone, so I'm talking, and I know that depending on what size of the rink is, how many people are listening. I mean, if it's in a small comedy club and there's 40 people in there, and you can hear and see every single person in there, I find that a lot harder playing in front of a small crowd than 40,000 people who are just become faceless. They just become one giant, most people aren't listening to me anyways, right? I'm just a voice in the crowd. But when it comes to playing, what do you prefer, small crowd or big crowd?
I haven't played in a crowd as big as that. Like the 44 is the biggest I've ever played, and if I had, to pick my preferences, the Mississippi and the Columbus crowds were both so hostile. So I'm going to go with big crowd. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but it was crazy both those nights.
Well, I had a roommate who I believe is still playing I think he's still playing for the Rapid City Rush. I haven't checked on him in a while, but Jesse Schultz, he used to play with the Manitoba Moose, had a cup of coffee with the Vancouver Canucks, played over in Finland for a year. He had, when he played for the Canucks, played in front of, 16, 17, 18,000 people a night and would travel with the team. He could not tee a golf ball in front of a foursome if he didn't know everyone in the foursome. I guess it's just amazing to me, the mentality of certain players on the confidence level of what you're about to do. And yeah, it's just crowd sizes have always fascinated. Some dudes are just able to shut it out. No one's in that ring except for the people on the ice. They don't even see the referees. Some people, Wayne Gretzky, I heard him talking with Joe Buck recently, and he said he knew the Northlands Coliseum so well in Edmonton that he hated playing in Edmonton after he was with the Kings or with the Rangers or the Blues, because he knew the entire rink. He knew that person sat up there. He knew that person sat there. Like, he was so aware of everything that was going on in the rink. It was not an enjoyable experience for him to go back and play in Edmonton.
I think the Danbury crowd, they're probably the worst as far as like coming into as a visiting opponent. Now, granted, I haven't started there, but I have been there to experience it. And when Danbury scores right after the goal, everybody in the crowd starts pointing at the goalie like this, and they yell, "Siv, Siv, it's all your fault. It's all your fault." And they're loud on top of that loud goal horn. So that if you're having a anxiety-riddled day or maybe a little bit of self-doubt, that crowd definitely is going to help you a little bit more believe in that self-doubt, to put it nicely.
I love that. Winnipeg's always really good about that, about getting together. And I mean, we gave Ryan Miller a hard time every time he was in town. So
Silver medal, baby. Silver medal.
Yeah, I absolutely love that stuff. All right, what else you got here on the docket?
Well, that's basically all we got. We got some Q&A questions from the Patreon members, but I did have one last thing that I wanted to talk about. And I know you mentioned the starting, like an upcoming start, hopefully getting a start this week coming up, whether it's against Baton Rouge or Port Huron. We got 3 and 4 nights, so hopefully getting one of them. I've talked a lot the last little bit about mental resiliency. What kind of man are you? What kind of character do you have? You know what I mean? And for being honest, I've talked a big talk, and it almost seems like it's funny how God sets out like the chapters in the book of like, okay, you talk the talk, show me. Let's see if you can actually walk the walk. All right, like, can you deal going to Watertown and not getting the opportunity no matter what you do, not being believed in? Can you stick with it, stay positive, and find a way to get better? All right, challenge accepted. Can you find a way to, find an opportunity to get starts elsewhere? With Mississippi, can you find a way to stay positive in the environment if you're not starting and Shep's playing every single night? It's funny how God tests you like that. Even, you have 4 goals on 14 shots in 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever it was in Wytheville, Virginia. You get thrown back into the game after, your goalie partner goes in, gives a 4, and coach says, you know what, go back in. Let's see what you can do. It's clearly not the goaltending. Let's see what you can do. Well, what kind of resiliency do you have, right? I feel like this season so far has been like a perfect example of being tested on the things that I've been talking about mental resiliency, character, integrity, and mental toughness, all that type of stuff.
Bless your heart.
Thanks, Dave. All right.
Door was open. I had to do it.
All right, thanks, Dave. Let's do the Patreon Q&A. So this is going to finish the episode. This is going to be a new thing for the show. So if you're a Patreon member, you can submit a question, and Dave and I will answer to the best of our abilities live on the show. This isn't a guarantee that your question will get in, because obviously the more questions come in, we can't fit them all in. But I want to take this opportunity to answer 4 questions that we had so far, and I will read them out as is. The first one comes from my booster family in Watertown, Joe Reel. How has your experience so far this season differed from the last season? Now, I think getting fed consistently in Watertown was a lot different. I think skating every single day for an hour and a half at 10 instead of 11 was a little bit different because you get to sleep in Motor City as opposed to right to the rink. And then we go to the rink early in Watertown, then gym after. So that was a little bit different. I think it was just a more busy experience. There was more things in the community because like in Motor City, it was just you wake up, go to the rink for an hour and a half, come home. That's it. Maybe, do you have a game? Okay. No, I think we only did morning skate twice, maybe 3 times the entire season we did morning skate. Or, sorry, the time that I was there, I should say. So a lot busier of a schedule to answer that question.
If I can speak on your behalf, and maybe this will trigger something for you, but I think the mentality of you last year compared to this year is the fact that you're healthy this year.
Yeah, and there's no excuses as far as the health goes because, I did put a thing on the vlog last week talking about like my ankle x-ray. The x-ray came back negative, so there's no excuses. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I have had some ankle pains and some problems, but there was nothing in the x-ray. So I'm just putting that out there. I mean, it is what it is. And I think confidence too, because even though the results haven't been there, I feel like I'm moving the best I ever have, and I feel like I'm competing and I'm giving myself a chance on pucks. Like the Binghamton game in Watertown, I felt I was in the zone. I felt it was a good first goal, lucky second goal, and I was making saves. Coach didn't believe me, like we talked about, gave me the yank, and then the Wytheville game, I felt I was seeing pucks well. I was moving really well, and it's just unfortunate that you start getting bounces. Like the defenseman shoots right center, goes off the D-man shin pad blocker side. One-timers back doors. The puck's getting cycled around like Harlem Globetrotters. Like at the end of the day, you do need to find a way to make a save, which is my responsibility. All the goals fall on me because I'm the goaltender. I need to tend the goal, right? It's a very simple job. You only have one job, really. But from a technical foundation, there was only 2 mistakes that I could pinpoint to the 8 goals. The rest were find a way to make a save. So honestly, I feel good compared to last season. I feel significantly better, if we're going to be honest.
Next question.
Sorry, did I ramble on too much for that one?
No.
All right. The next one was, what coffee goes best with my Slangin The Bizkit mug? I'm a black rifle coffee kind of guy. Curious what kind of blends you guys are personally into, and that comes from War Daddy Goalie. Dave, what kind of coffee are you drinking with your Slangin The Bizkit mug?
Well, listen, I've got one of those Keurigs at home, so I just throw the pot in whatever the wife buys. More often than not, it's whatever's on sale. So that's a collection of Costco brand or Tim Hortons brand. I'll be honest with you, whatever. It's just another vehicle to get caffeine into my system.
This is a good one for Dave and I. Dylan asked, what do you think the biggest difference between the U.S. Midwest and the Canadian prairies are?
Population.
More density in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's about it. I'll be honest with you. Canada gets, the prairies get forgotten a lot too. I mean, you got Vancouver, which is, the equivalent of your Seattle or any one of your West Coast cities. Then you've got Calgary, Edmonton, which are the equivalent of your Denvers. And then, you got Saskatchewan, you got Regina, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, who all kind of get lumped into one of these flyover provinces, the way, Hillary Clinton said, it's just a flyover state. And then you get over to the East Coast where it's densely populated. But yeah, the prairies in Canada get forgotten a lot. And you know what? I think we have the same attitude that the Midwest does is good. Good. Forget about us. We don't need you. We'll do our own thing. We don't have to fall in line with the center of the universe mentality. We're doing just fine.
I still want to get that Winnipeg tattoo on my neck, by the way. That is an idea that I have. Why? Okay, what? Tell me what you really think.
I did already.
You don't like it?
It's not that I don't like it. I just think that is a bold statement for someone who's never gotten a tattoo before. Get a tattoo where you can enjoy it for yourself first before you start going, I have a tattoo, everyone! Look!
It's on my neck. Let's let the Patreon members decide. What do they think? That's who actually matters in this show, right, Dave?
Every single one of them paying members, absolutely.
Final question. This one comes from Dean, and it's a question for Dave. He says, Dave, do you like balls in your mouth?
I like snowballs in my mouth. I like balls of chocolate around Christmas time. I like them chocolate sweaty balls. Yep.
I don't know if that was a reference to the Goon movie, which you did happen to star in. If you're watching the movie Goon, Dave is in the movie. Mm-hmm. But I think that is a reference to the, hey, I got a question for Doug. Yeah, go ahead. Do you like hot dogs or corn dogs better? I like corn dogs because they're like hot dogs, but they're on a stick. So you don't really have to hold them as much. Is that because you like cocks in your mouth?
God love Sean Scott. What a great movie. It's funny.
Go ahead.
Go on.
And I love how, the whole time he's like, God damn it, Sully, why don't you screen this shit? And it's the Trailer Park Boys up there doing the screening.
Man, I've got fond memories of not only that movie, but filming that movie. I was actually in the makeup chair getting my hair done and everything for my scenes. And I was sitting next to one of the writers, and we kind of started shooting the shit a little bit. And I mentioned, I said I was in the middle of working on a screenplay, and the character that I have in mind is Sean Scott. And he goes, God, you're the third person to say that they're writing a hockey movie, and Sean William Scott was the basis of their character. Because I'm so glad I got to it first. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
It's an amazing movie, though. I think that is the best hockey movie of all time. My biased opinion.
No,
not because you're in it.
Slapshot.
I like Goon. I don't know. Maybe it's because it was around the time that I was playing AAA hockey or watching movies on the bus. But
it's between Slapshot or The Tooth Fairy with The Rock.
It's not even a hockey movie. Anyway, what is a hockey movie is this podcast, kind of, sort of, and we do a new episode every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. That is 10 in Winnipeg, 9 in Calgary, 8 in the West Coast in Vancouver. My name is Travis Regin, number 31 for your Mississippi Seawolves. Dave Wheeler hosts the number one show in the city of Winnipeg for morning radio, and we will see you next Sunday as we always do. Thanks
Bless your heart.